Hi, my name is Joe Rodwell. I'm a multi-instrumentalist and composer based in Guildford.
And my name's Jon Spanyol. I'm also a multi-instrumentalist composer, and I'm based near Watford. I'm good. I have been recently recording a Latin jazz album for a production music company.
Which one?
HPM, they're called. A new company, but they're doing really well. I'm doing a bit of flugelhorn, bit of trombone, and the rhythm section parts. So it's a sort of one man jazz band kind of vibe. And how about you, Joe?
We recently worked on something together. We did the horns on the new Shy FX remix of the banger that is Becky Hill and Chase and Status's Disconnect, which is great. We had a great time doing that.
Yeah, we did.
That's out now.
Down to Moloko Studios.
Yeah,
it was
great.
Brilliant. Yeah, the pool recording studio down there is fantastic space.
Big up the guys there.
Yeah.
Very cool. So lately, as well as instrumental things, I've been working on a lot of mix engineering. Recently did a lot of mixes on Sonia Stein's latest album, Lessons from Earth. Go check her out, she's amazing. As well as lots of just singles here and there. We also both work together for a company that makes bespoke media composition stuff, so that's been quite busy lately for me, and that often involves playing lots of different instruments, not just brass, but guitar, bass, and keys as well.
Yeah.
So I started in music. I mean, initially I had piano lessons when I was about 6, but I was rubbish. Like, literally, my mum and the piano teacher had conversations about saying, you probably should stop doing this. But it kind of changed when I was part of the scout group, and so I was doing Beavers, Cubs and Scouts, and our scouts had a band, and they started a band for kids, and I joined that on the trumpet, and just loved it. And I was very lucky to be in a group of a lot of people who also really enjoyed playing, and we got better alongside each other. We were competition for each other, really. So that then made my piano playing better. And fast forwarding a lot, did a lot of playing with them across the country and then internationally as well, and then went to uni at London College of Music doing music technology. I was also a bit of a tech nerd, so I wanted to do I was into like house and trance music in the 90s, and kind of had that as well as like jazz and brass playing on the other side, and then went on from there. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I started playing at a very young age. Started on piano, and then when I was about 10 or so, moved on to brass. Started on the euphonium, and then when my arms were long enough, I went on the trombone because I couldn't reach the far positions at the start. So went on trombone when I was 12. Did all the kind of the grade exams and things at school, and I was quite lucky there was a really good music department at school, so I was involved with like the orchestra there and the jazz band, big band, and all that kind of thing. And then went on to the Royal College of Music in London. Did 4 years there on trombone, and that was kind of around the time I sort of got into playing more jazz and that kind of thing. That kind of then led to to doing more pop session stuff and all that kind of thing. I sort of recorded a bit with Charlie Winston, who is a big artist in France. He had a platinum selling album over there, and that was probably, I guess, the sort of biggest thing I did at that point. And then sort of moving on from that, after we both graduated, we ended up working at
that's
Sony,
kind of links onto the questions of where did we both meet. So I think you were one of the first members of the music transcription team.
I did it,
at SingStar. So SingStar was a karaoke game for the Sony PlayStation 2 and 3 and 4 and all that. Not on the 5, I don't think, unless it's online. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
No, but so you were there, and then I was, one of my jobs straight out of uni was working for Sega, and from that I ended up going as a games tester, and then I found out about this job and met you there. I think we had like 6 of us on the transcription team, all musical to some extent. It was a really lovely team to work for.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Like a great group of friends, all friends still now. And so Mark, who was also working there as a guitarist, and he was playing in
Lovely
a
guy.
band. Nice guy. Mark Webber, it's for you. He was playing in a band with Katie Schotter, who then wanted some brass players, so we joined her band, and that's where our kind of musical friendship kind of really
absolutely. And we did all these gigs out in various places in Europe, Harley Davidson festivals, all that kind of stuff. It was really fun. Really fun, sort of socially and also musically. It was brilliant. Everyone in the band just kind of got on really, really well. yeah, we met some other great musicians
Yeah.
through it as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
All
really
doing
helped,
well
obviously.
still.
Yeah.
And I think I did a few sessions, like recording sessions. I've done them myself for myself and for other people as well. But I think I'd like to thank Katie Shotter as well, because she put us in touch with Shy FX.
She did indeed, yeah.
And I think we did the first thing we did for him was. Oh, I'm stretching the memory. I asked him this other day. He asked me this other day. I can't remember.
It was Yasmin Lights Up the World, I believe. Yeah. I was thinking in the car on the way down here, actually, it must be close to 10 years ago we did that.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
I can't remember exactly when it was, maybe even more.
It could well be.
It's been quite a long...
It was before I met my partner. That's nearly 10 years. So I feel like, it must be
something like that.
Anyway, so that kind of a start that, like, I say, doing sessions before, but that felt like a first proper session. And then we kind of became a little team, really, kind of doing first just trumpet and trombone, which are instruments at the time, and then adding extra bits to that as we went on for other people, doing all sorts of different sessions for lots of people. So when we're doing one together, and we've done separate ones as well, I think, but it tends to be it's more often than not just a 4-horn section, and because we play different instruments, it tends to be I'll do trumpet 1, John will do trumpet 2, tenor sax, trombone, usually in that order in terms of pitch down, although it can vary.
It varies depending on the arrangement,
and sometimes we've added more, but often it's that way, and we'll record them remotely, just time-wise.
Yeah.
I think it just... recording a sample library can take quite a time, and if you've got lots of other work on as well, or family commitments like you have, and I might have soon, it's just trying to fit it in between things. So the remote thing works really well, but we'll tend to split it in half, and so John will record and write however many loops of your side, and then I'll do the same, and then we'll just record on each other's.
Send them all over, writing. And then fill in the gaps. So I mean, it can be quite tricky sometimes because because we're playing kind of. So Joe's doing trumpet 1 and tenor sax, which is like parts 1 and 3 technically, and then I'm doing parts 2 and 4. So we have to kind of leave space in the middle for each other to start, and you're kind of imagining what the other one's going to play. And because we've worked together so much over the years, we kind of know what the other one's going to think. It's kind of I guess we've built up that relationship. We just sort of know, we can almost read each other's minds in terms of where that part is going to go, and we'll just know. We don't have to sort of write anything down and sort of specify. Okay, you're playing this note. I think we'll just know that that Joe will kind of fill in that one, and I'll fill in that one, and
In terms of like technical equipment, I think it depends on the genre. I know for the reggae one, we definitely went for our respective ribbon mics. We could do a ribbon mic reveal. Yeah. Come on, let's do it.
For me, certainly, it's this Coles 4038, which is beautiful ribbon mic from when was it? When they were originally made? 60s, was it? Or
it might even be
earlier than that.
I want to say
so the old BBC mics, aren't they? But it's beautiful ribbon mic. I use it on all the horns, so trombone, sax, and also and trumpet and flugel. When I record those, and it just gives that really nice sort of warm kind of vintagey sound, and it just works really well.
I want one of those as well, if I'm honest. I ended up buying one of these. There's a Roya R122 because it was on a really good deal on eBay. This tends to be used more in America, but it has a slightly brighter sound than Coles.
It does,
which you
did a shootout, didn't you?
I did do a shootout.
Yeah. Check out
my YouTube channel out. You can see the shootout between many mics. But it also has a vintage sort of vibe. It has a slightly brighter vintage vibe. I would kind of consider it like a old hi-fi sort of sound. But I think that blends really well with that when you've got the lower bits on there and the brighter bits on here, and it kind of works. So for the reggae stuff, I would definitely use that. If I'm doing anything that's a bit more pop or a bit brighter, I feel like on Freshest Funk stuff, I might have actually used this. I can't remember 100%. Oh, am I going to drop everything? Maybe. This is where you switch between cameras, and you didn't see me do this.
It's a nice cut here.
If I'm doing something a bit brighter, it's not cheating at all. I use my clip mic as Shure SM.
It's being resourceful.
And actually, I just think personally for me as a trumpet player, it captures all aspects of the frequency range, and particularly the bright stuff sounds good without sounding shrill. It can do, obviously depends on how well I'm playing that day, but it tends to capture it well in a way that doesn't get things. They don't get too thin. They get bright, but they get big. So I use that all the time.
Actually, while we're on that point as well. I tend to use the Spirit as well. Quite often, the Aston Spirit, I tend to use it kind of often coupled with the, using both mics at the same time kind of thing. Then you can, producers can pick and choose kind of which one they like, or blend them together. But this is a slightly brighter sound than the Coles. When the Coles doesn't have those sort of high frequencies, it's nice just to kind of to boost those and just give people extra options. Yeah. So yeah, that's those two bits of hardware certainly.
Yeah, I mean, and
the ones I struggle to
use any particular preamps.
Well, I've got the Focusrite ISA 2.
Yes.
Yeah,
ISA 2.
You've sold it, have you? You've moved on.
I love my ISA 2. It's very good.
Yeah.
I use I've got a Neve 1073 or a Coil Audio, which is like a fancy tube mic, which I always use with that clip mic. It's gorgeous, big piece of kit. But yeah, I think when I'm blending with you, I would probably use the Neve, because that's Rupert Neve made both of those, designed both of those, so it kind of comes up from the same sort of sound world. Because I'm often a mix engineer, there's many can sit into this category, but I feel like as this is kind of a bit more brass focused, when it comes to brass, I don't actually add too much processing, like in terms of compression and EQ, unless it's a particular effect. What I tend to use is a lot of saturation, and we kind of had this discussion earlier on, but I often Sound Toys Decapitator.
Yeah, it's a dream for brass.
A lot. Yeah, it does a great job. You use it for...
Yeah, so I've done a couple of New Orleans production music albums, and actually I don't own a sousaphone. It's one of the few brass instruments that I don't have, but I do have the euphonium, as I mentioned before. That's what I started on, and I've still got my old euphonium that I used to use when I was growing up, and put a load of Decapitator on that, and it kind of sounds, and EQ it a bit, it kind of sounds like a sousaphone, so it's good to sort of sousaphone cheat without having to spend whatever they are, $7 or $8 probably on a decent sousaphone, isn't it? Yeah, so
I think I've been doing reasonable amount of drum and bass and an electro swing as well, and I kind of find just adding a little bit of drive. And actually, if I do use EQ, the EQ in Decapitator, the knobs and Decapitator, I'm just visualising, the high cut, low cut, they're brilliant just for kind of shaping things and just adding a little bit of bite. And then bits of reverb. Valhalla vintage reverb gets used all the time, let's be honest. And then Sound Toys little plate, I quite like as well.
I don't tend to add really that much compression on horns. I think I didn't really want that, want it to be too heavily compressed. Really, it's nice to have the kind of the peaks and the troughs.
Yeah, I think the mics we use actually have, they don't have inbuilt compression as such, but they do that job a little bit. Particularly ribbon mics, they kind of round things off a little bit more.
Yeah. I'd second the Valhalla. All of the Valhalla reverbs I absolutely love. I use them, not just on horns, but I'm recording other things as well. I just absolutely love. Especially vintage verb is just one I couldn't live without, really. I think I could live without it, but you know what I mean. That's a bit dramatic, but
but it's one of the most used things. It's probably in the top 5 most plugins.
Definitely.
So I do use sample packs in my own music, but mostly for drums and percussion bits. So I think anytime I'm building up a new track in production or for composition, I will often find some new samples on there. I've got hordes and hordes of kick drum samples now, crikey. But and it's definitely my go-tos. But I think I use Splice quite a lot to kind of get, if I need to get a particular sound or want to find something new, I will definitely use a lot of stuff from that. And then like tambourine and tops loops and things like that can come in really handy, especially in dance genres. But I don't use much in terms of melodic information. I think you might I use it very sparingly. Really, I use for sound effects. Definitely, I'll use it. And as Joe mentioned, for percussive things, I don't have a drum kit in my studio, so it's good to get a nice live sort of vibey drum sound. But generally, because as we were saying earlier, we like to play all of the instruments ourselves, really, so we don't tend to use them that much. Obviously for horns we're kind of covered, and for guitars and basses we've got that in our respective studios, so I don't use them as much as I guess a lot of people, because we do try to play a lot of the instruments live ourselves, and also it's a bit it's a bit more creative, I find, actually, personally, to play your own parts, and you're not kind of being steered more by. I think we're of I won't say a generation, but we're of a particular, our background in music has led us to go, well, I know what I want, I know the sound I want to make, right, and I know how to make that, so I do just do it. I can play, get a keyboard, whereas I can totally see the benefit of somebody who's maybe not had the same educational background we've had in music, and they're like, I really need to get a guitar loop, I need it to be that genre, and I can see, oh, there's one there. throw it in, and it kind of, even if it's like something they might get replaced later on, it's got a good starting point. And
I think it's also to do with this. I mean, personally, I compose a lot of jazz, so I think you can't really use loops for that, because you're improvising, and it's got to have that, that. I was talking before about the organic kind of vibe. It's got to have that kind of that live vibey feel. So I think for the jazz stuff that I do, certainly, I mean, you couldn't really do it, but for different genres, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of essential.
I'll put my hand up. I've definitely used the Freshest Funk guitar bundle in some production stuff. Yeah, I think I had to do a last minute composition for the same media company we're talking about. I wasn't at home. I needed to record guitar. I didn't have a guitar with me, so it's like, what do I do? Freshest Funk guitars in,
boom,
and it kind of what I like about these samples is you get an 8-bar loop. Probably only going to use the first 2 bars or like a middle section, and you can kind of recreate. And I like that.
It's good that you can chop it up, isn't it? Yeah.
Change the tempo, stretch things around, and so I think there's the creative side becomes how you manipulate that sample to make it your own.
Yeah.
So I think the main takeaway I've got with working with any artist, I was going to say like particularly well-known artists, but actually I think it goes across the board, is just to be open and listen to what they like, ask questions about what they want to get from a sound, or from, if say they want to get us to record horns, particularly if there's nothing written yet. So have you got any like references? Have you got any, this is more than one point, I realise, but have you got any references, or tell me about the song? And I think it's just being inquisitive about what they want. They may know nothing about how trumpet works or how trombone works. Doesn't mean their ideas are not sound at all. It's like they booked you in because they want that sound, and there'll be a reason for that. And it's kind of always being open to working with somebody, instead of I think brass players can get into the tendency of just like, well, just sitting there and waiting to be told what to do. And
I think I mean, you get different type of people that you work with, don't you? Get some who are very prescriptive, and they say we want exactly this. We've got MIDI brass recorded. This is what we want, and then then it's our job to try to replicate it, and then obviously if there's anything that doesn't work, then we can sort of guide them and sort of say, well, hold on a minute, it's all very well, this works well on the samples, but actually it might work slightly better. You can just kind of advise.
I think the worst thing you could do is go like, well, that's not going to work.
What are you doing?
Why are you doing that? Won't work on this instrument. Do you know what a trumpet? Why are you doing that?
You've got to be open to just I guess gently kind of pointing them in the right direction. But then you get some people, I mean, who don't. They don't have a clear idea in mind of what they want, and then then you can sort of be creative. And you can you can demo up different ideas, and then they'll hear it and they'll think, okay, great, that's what I want. Yeah. So it's two different, I guess. It's different sides to it, or somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it can be kind of a bit of both.
I love receiving both. Like receiving a bit of sheet music and getting just recording it and getting it done. It's great. The ideas are there, and it's a quicker session for us most of the time. Unless I can't remember how to read music, because I don't do it as often as I used to. And then I quite like the creative ones. They feel like the most satisfying things. But anyway, going off.
I mean, I've listened to everything over the years, and I love all music. I suppose when I was in my sort of formative years, I was listening to a lot of kind of old sort of soul and Stevie Wonder and that kind of thing. I was really heavily into Stevie Wonder, so I guess a lot of this kind of funk horn stuff comes from that. And then a lot of jazz as well. So I mean, a lot of jazz artists. Because I play piano as well. So I mean, people like Bill Evans was a huge influence on my piano playing. Miles Davis, from that, obviously when they played together, and then more recently, I suppose, trombone-wise, people like Bob Brookmeyer on valve trombone, absolutely got into his stuff, and Jerry, with his collaborations with Jerry Mulligan on Barry sax and that kind of thing. I mean, just a lot. Chet Baker on trumpet, certainly. I just love his tone and his voice as well when he sings. So a real mix, really, of all sort of stars. And I've listened to sort of quite heavy rock over the years as well, and all sorts, and of course I studied classical music, so there's that side as well. So I like to draw influences from everything, really. I think that's quite important.
Yeah, I agree. I think if in particular, I had a quite odd upbringing in terms of music, because I did the marching band thing, and I honestly, it sounds sad, but I used to listen to loads of their music, and it was lots of 60 screaming trumpet players. It was amazing, and actually I got to do that in the States, and it is a great thing to be part of, and so I kind of went from that angle, like the big band angle, kind of as the crossover from that to jazz. So Maynard Ferguson, Arturo Sandoval, all the big noisemakers, right? And then kind of found, I guess, less intense jazz or less loud stuff after that. And so, and I didn't get Miles Davis the first time. I put my hand
trumpet
up.
player.
Yeah, very much so.
How high, how loud?
Yeah, totally, exactly that. And but then I discovered like jazz a lot as I was at uni, and I was like, okay, and suddenly got thrown into like, oh, I get Miles Davis now. I get all this. I completely understand this. And then other instrumentalists, Charlie Parker, for instance, and I kind of found my way into, I guess, like the a later big band scene. So Maria Schneider Orchestra, all the stuff that the Pat Metheny big band albums are really big thing for me. But similarly, I mean, jazz is just one thing. I think I listened to so much jazz at uni, I stopped listening to jazz for about 2 years afterwards because I went into a heavy rock thing. I went really into System of a Down and dubstep and things like that. So I think whilst I think instrumentally there's definitely, like, I have influences, but I think my musical influences are very broad because, I grew up being a trance head and wanting to go to Ibiza even though I was like 14 and couldn't go. And then discovered hip hop afterwards and got really into, like, particularly like Jay Dilla and like the Chicago scene of that. And yeah, so it's a wide variety. It's a short answer.
I mentioned earlier that I've just finished this Latin jazz album for HPM, Hidden Production Music. Sorry?
Where are they?
Where are they? Oh, they're hidden.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can do that again if you
want.
No,
that's all right. this Latin jazz album for Hidden Production Music. So I'm playing basically, flugelhorn, trumpet, saxophone, alto antenna, and a bit of trombone, and then all the rhythm section is recorded by me as well. Lots of fun percussion that I recorded on it as well. So it's going to be fun. It's a sort of mixture of quite sort of chill bossa nova style, and then it's got some more up tempo kind of Latin jazz stuff. I think the biggest one is 6-piece horns, and then the smallest one is I think 2. So nice. It's a sort of range of all Latin jazz styles, and that's it's going to be out I think later in September.
Great. I'm currently working with an artist called Charlotte Landsman as a producer and mix engineer. So we're in a mixing stage, but also quite finishing off the production phase. And that's been a really good project to work on. It's very organic. Again, like I've been doing a lot of electronic stuff lately, but this has been really nice to go back to pretty much acoustic instruments only sort of vibe. And we had a great session at 123 Studios in Peckham. Shout out to Brett Shaw, great studio. And yes, we had some wicked rhythm players on that. So just finishing off that now, recording horns for it as well, doing all the horns and doing some background vocals. So yeah, look out for that. Learn finance.
Yeah. Learn how to do your tax return.
Yeah. So my main advice is just to be open and broad with what can make you money in the music industry. Like, I think everyone has the dreams of what they'd love to do. I think I wanted to be like a full length. I wanted to be Hans Zimmer, basically.
Yeah.
I wanted to do film scores. I still like the idea of doing that. I'm quite glad I don't do just that. And I think you can there are lucky breaks along the way, and they definitely happen. I've known it. It's happened to people we've known. But I think in the long run, you've got to find ways of kind of keeping yourself afloat. That I think if you can make your money from music, so playing particularly, I think if you're an instrumentalist, there's so many opportunities for you. Making sample libraries.
Yeah.
The thing we do.
It's having lots of strings to your bow, basically.
Yeah.
I think, that's the only way, because we're both lucky enough to be full-time musicians. So it's about having versatility, I think, and being able to do lots of different things. It's funny because I feel like back in the day when I was learning music, it's like, jack of all trades, all this kind of, talk of being a jack of all trades, it's not gonna help. But actually, I sort of found that by being a bit of, a jack of all trades in a way, you just maximise your opportunities. And then, for example, when there's a global pandemic, you're kind of, I think you've got still things ticking over. Still the production work, for example, can keep going even though the live work didn't. So we were very lucky in that regard. I felt very fortunate during the pandemic because. I was still able to kind of
just lost one aspect of work that went away, but a lot of the
other thing kind of picks up.
And I think that's it. I mean, like the fact say you want to become a trumpet player and want to play with all these people, if you are doing arrangements for people, for instance, that's an extra thing you can add whilst you're playing with a band. So, I'd love to write some arrangements for the band. It's an extra thing, extra bit of money you can make from that. And you just never know who you're going to meet by doing all sorts of different things. I think a lot of the jobs I've got have been very roundabout how I've met that person, and it may not be doing the thing I end up doing for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Doing string, I did some string arrangements for Bridgerton, bigging myself up.
Yeah,
that was just a random
good
thing.
Good job,
It was it's wrong for Fabio. In the long run, I was playing at a church, and I know Fabio. Fabio knows Troy Miller, well-known drummer. And I think I'd done some arranging for Fabio for one of the church things. He put me in touch with Troy. Therefore, I did, arranging for Troy. Troy knew Hannah Vasanth, who's Hannah V, great producer, and she ended up doing Bridgerton and asked me to do the string arrangements for that. And it's
all about who you know, isn't it? Really, it's kind of doing a good job for someone, and then they'll pass your name on to someone else, and you never know kind of where it's going to lead. So that's kind of coming around to the point I was going to make as well. Is you've just got to be accommodating. You can't you can't sort of have an ego. You can't be you can't sort of say, well, I'm not doing that. You can't. You've got to be a bit of a yes man, haven't you? Especially in the early days. I think. I mean, when I first went freelance after we finished at the PlayStation job, I was just saying yes to everything. No matter sort of even if the pay was rubbish, or you've got to do that in the early days.
Find your opportunities
because you never know where it's going to. The same way we were talking about the reggae covers band. The pay not great for that in the early days, but it then led to us getting a better knowledge about reggae, and then that obviously helps us in the long run. I mean, you never know where these things are going to lead, and then obviously. I think when you get to a certain point, you can start to be a little bit more selective about what you take and what you don't. When you've built up a bit of a sort of portfolio and a bit of a CV, but in the early days, definitely. I mean, in terms of sort of what advice I give to aspiring musicians is, just say yes to everything.
Yeah, and you'll learn. Like, if you're worried about being used or having experiences, don't get me wrong. We've been there. We've all been there, I think. And it's like you learn which ones you'll know. By the more you do things, which ones not to do. Just read people and go, that doesn't seem like it's a worthwhile thing. And they seem a bit shady. Cool.
The key word that you find a lot on these job offers is it's great exposure. You get told that a lot, and sometimes yes, it can be, but a lot of the time when I've been told it will be great exposure, you look at it and you sort of think, okay, hold on a minute, what am I actually going to gain from this? And more often than not, it's nothing. They're the people who are telling you it's great exposure are getting free music, basically. That's what that means, under the surface. But sometimes, yes, it can be great exposure if it's if there's going to be someone there who might then book you.
If you're going to be able to be put in a room with other people who you can then, and you can't expect it. You can then go up and talk to about stuff. That's a good thing. But it's difficult. I mean, the music industry is hard. There's no pretending that. It's a difficult thing. And you just got to keep working, keep learning, and things just happen. I don't like my career is especially in the last 5-6 years, or more than that even, really hasn't got worse because I've met more people. And if I'm allowed to swear on this, my key thing is don't be shit, don't be a dick. And that's it. And you don't have to be amazing necessarily. You don't have to be amazing. You just have to be to do the job as well.
Be professional.
As you can be professional.
That's very important.
And try and get on with people.
Don't swear on camera, for example.
Hopefully they'll bleep it out. But I think it's like you've all met people who they're really good, but I don't want to stay on a tour bus with them.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think that's it's a key thing. And I'm not saying you have to pander to everyone's needs. It's just about being open and reasonable with people.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that's
good.
It's good advice. Yeah.
Right,
I think sort of similar as well. I mean, you never quite know where your career is going to go. I mean, you can have a plan, you can have a game plan, but I mean, similar to what you were saying about kind of doing one thing and then moving on to other things. I mean, I studied orchestral trombone. I haven't played in an orchestra now. I mean, that was the whole degree I did was how to play in a symphony orchestra, right? And so I did all these, really, great concerts under very famous conductors. Like Bernard Haitink, I played under, and John Wilson as well. The great, he does all the kind of proms and all that kind of stuff. He's brilliant. So I did some stuff with him as well, as part of an orchestra. And then I haven't played in an orchestra now for I don't know, probably 15 years or so. And your career just kind of goes in different directions. It was actually the thing I got most out of college in hindsight was the fact that I was playing in jazz trios and that kind of thing, and I was doing kind of, you know, functions and you know, and kind of learning a bit more about jazz. So you kind of, and then actually, you know, I got the Sony SingStar job was advertised through college as well. So it's kind of, yeah, it's all kind of, it all led to that, and then that led to meeting Joe and doing, you know, it's weird how it. I'd never have, you know, sort of 20 years ago, I'd never have thought I'd be where I am now, kind of, and doing what I'm doing now. I would have assumed, I'll be playing second trombone in the LSO or whatever, you know, or first trombone, aim high.
I mean, aim high, John. Yeah.
But
Soloist,
that was the aspiration at the time, and obviously I'm not doing that at all now. But it's
You're okay with that?
I'm absolutely fine with that. 'Cause, you know, the way I see it, as long as I'm playing music, as long as I'm being able to be creative, I'm happy, you know. Yeah,
the great thing about music is there's so many different jobs about it, and whilst the music industry is difficult, there is a lot of different things out there. Just so many. I mean, we're doing jobs where we're writing music for on-hold phone lines, right?
Yeah.
Who knew that was a job? It's a good job.
And our music's on British Airways planes. I mean,
it's these little weird things that can happen. So I think you're saying going to, you know, be orchestral trombone player. If you want to be an orchestral trombone player, go down that line.
Yeah.
See where it takes you. It might not take you there, but if you're aiming, have some aim, but don't just be open.
Don't expect it to necessarily happen, and or, you know,
you might not enjoy it. You might love it.
Yeah.
It works for lots of people. Anyway.
Great.
Yeah, great.
Cheers, guys.